Welcome to Planning Hikes. We're going to talk about research and permits. This talk is sponsored by REI, the outdoor retailer of the 52 Hike Challenge, and TechNew, the outdoor itch experts of the 52 Hike Challenge. We're going to go ahead and get started, and thank you for joining us. Let us know where you're joining from in the chat, what hike you're on, and we will give you a shout out at the end as well.
All right, so you want to hike. This is a beautiful view of Big Pine Lakes, and we're actually going to be talking and walking through that whole permit process. So just to get you a little excited about what we have showing up.
I just really quickly noticed that our video isn't quite showing up, so just give us a second there. All right, hey everyone. We're just going to go ahead and move along. So we were sharing this beautiful image of a hike here.
Okay, so let's talk about how to get started with planning and picking the hike that you're going to go on. Okay, so let's start off with some of the basics, and you can look up hiking trails in Los Angeles, Orange County, different areas that you might be in, different cities that you might be in. And that's actually going to turn up quite a few different results. Then the next, which is kind of the tried and true way of doing things before the internet, is getting a book. And you can find a book in any of your local retailers. REI has this one, and Jerry Shod and Scott Turner's A Foot in a Field. Here we're highlighting the one from San Diego. And anyway, so that's a good one. And I really like that book, those authors, because they also kind of break it down into like waterfall hikes and scenic view hikes and, strenuous hikes. So that way you can kind of get a little bit better of a feel for, what it is that you're looking for when you get out there. Of course, you can join one of our Facebook chapters, and you can see where other people are going, and that should also help you get you a pretty good idea about some of those different things. There's different podcasts that you can check out, different blogs, websites. We're going to give a shout out to Washington Trails Association and another person, the hiking guy. So you can check him out and see where his trails are and that he's exploring, and what you might want to adventure to. Of course, asking your friends for recommendations, always a good one. And joining a local group like a meetup. Meetup.com has different groups on there, or just kind of gather your friends around and go for an excursion. All right, we're not done. We still have more.
So there's lots of ways of picking hikes. Definitely you can use Yelp. For example, I live here in Southern California, and I just wrote down hiking trails, and it populated a ton of hikes near me. I was actually surprised when I found that. I was like, whoa, I can't believe that Yelp has hikes. I have actually heard from people who have taken the challenge that have actually just used maps. And on their phone, they just look at maps like Google Earth, and then they find trails on there. Now, I will say that we will have a disclaimer on that. We can't guarantee that a trail on Google Earth is actually going to be an actual valid open trail. So explore at your own risk and make sure that you don't break any laws. You can absolutely, one of my favorite things to do is to visit a local park and then to look on their website and find out what their recommended hikes are. So I'll give you an example here. If you go on Instagram and you look up other hikers or other organizations in state parks, for example, I added here Joshua Tree NPS, which is their Instagram handle. They have different like little tips that they put out. Sometimes they talk about trails, locations at their parks, etc. Well, on their website, you can actually go down to plan a visit and you can look up their recommended hikes. I love doing that every time we go to a national park, and I love like checking off some of the hikes that they recommend. They also have different hikes with like in regards to different like If you want to go easy level or moderate level or even a hard hike, they have all of that listed on their website. And they have a lot of information, which is great, which we're going to talk a little bit more about. Also, like if you're traveling as you're doing your 52 hike challenge, you can look up on like different travel tourism boards as to what are the best hikes or places to go out into nature where you're visiting. So once you know where you're going, looking up guides, pamphlets, etc. And again, using the internet really is one of the best things that I've ever used for planning my trips.
Mhm.
And then we want to leave you with downloading an app, okay? Because there are different apps that you can use for trails out there. Please feel free to add your favorite apps for finding hikes in the chat box. But we really like, especially when you're new to hiking, AllTrails. That's such a great app, and we're actually going to talk a little bit more about it here.
Mhm. Yeah, and I want to point out too, I like using Instagram for the hike that I'm about to go on so that I can look up what weather conditions look like in that area. And that's really helpful, to see if there's been a storm and, if there's snow on the area or not. And you can kind of gauge from there. And maybe even if you want to, you can actually talk to someone who posts that photo and ask them what the conditions were like.
Yeah, joining local groups also on Facebook. A lot of times you can get information, we call it beta in the outdoor space, but you can get trail beta, find out from someone who's recently been up a trail to find out how the conditions are. All right, so we were talking about apps last. And so one of the most important things, once you pick your trail, let's say you found your trail. Today, by the way, we're going to be focusing on Big Pine Trail. Big Pine is a city here in the Sierra Nevada in California. So we're going to focus on that because we're going to actually show you a little bit more about permits and stuff like that. But for this specific trail, let's say I pick this trail, okay? I need to go do my research. I need to find out what I need to know before I go out in my car, which is one of the Recreate Responsibly guidelines, know before you go. And then you're going to want to do your due diligence, right? Like you need to know what the length of the trail is, the difficulty, the elevation gain. Now, we know this talk is going to be geared more towards people who maybe are new hikers and maybe you're a seasoned hiker, but you haven't had to get a permit yet. So if you don't know what elevation gain means, that means the steepness of the hike or how much you're going to be climbing. So that essentially think of it as a hill, right? Like you have flat terrain and then you have hills and you have mountains and peaks and all of that.
So basically, what's important there is, let's say you're going to gain about 1,000 feet. Well, 1,000 feet over a 2-mile hike is going to be really steep. But 1,000 feet over, say, a 10-mile hike is not that bad. And so anyway, just think of it that way. It's not to get into mathematics, but it's the hypotenuse.
Yes. And I think that's really important because when I first started hiking, I had no idea what elevation gain meant at all. So not knowing that and going on a hike that was, like Philip said, maybe it was a shorter hike and had a steep incline was really rough. So when you're first starting out, we definitely want to recommend that you start with something a little bit smaller, just to get used to what elevation gain is like, and so that you don't tire yourself out. So yeah, definitely knowing all of those things is going to be important as you're planning your hike. You also need to know, like, how much time do I need to give myself for this hike, especially if you're trying to go like after work and you want to complete a hike. And there's nothing wrong with obviously going down a trail for an hour and then turning back around, right? Like that's also okay. But during your research phase, you're going to find out things like, do I need a permit for this hike? What's the parking condition like? Are there any costs to get into this trailhead? And those are all really important things for you to know, because the last thing you want is to drive down somewhere and then, either not know where, not know the costs, etc. So with your research, you're actually going to come across the important things like, what kind of animals might I encounter? what kind of flora and fauna. And so we've talked about this over the last year, and this is one of the best ways to make sure that you know how to be safe out when you're out there. You can do research on, if you do come across, let's say, a snake, what do I do? Or for example, if you're going to be hiking somewhere that has poison oak, making sure you have your Technu with you. All right, so a few other tips that are really helpful is, as I was saying earlier, especially when you're first starting out, we recommend you stick to maintained trails. Those are always going to be listed in your park maps. And you're definitely going to want to make sure, like I said earlier, to start with like maybe 2-mile hikes with little elevation gain. We recommend no more than 500 feet when you're first starting out. And then obviously, as you continue going, please feel free to start upping that mileage and elevation gain, because this is where you're really going to see that growth, that internal growth as you're going through your challenge.
Yeah. And we want to also say, we found that doing something like 6 miles with 1,000 feet of gain is a pretty good amount for anybody who's just starting. That's a pretty good workout for that day. So just keep that metric in mind as you're planning some of your hikes.
Also, if you're new to hiking, one of the best things you can do, because I know that it can be intimidating planning a hike, like especially when you're first new to hiking, you might feel like, oh my gosh, like I don't really know, like what do I do? How do I make sure I don't get lost? So one of the best things you can do is find friends to go hiking with. Join a hiking group. You can find people on meetup.com. On our website under resources, if you look under local groups, there's a list of, I don't even know at this point how big that list is, but there's hiking groups all around the nation in that page. If you have a hiking group, add yourself to that group, please. Look up Facebook chapters. Even your local parks have docent-led hikes, and we always promote that because it's better to get started with others than to start yourself. Sometimes you just need to get started. You just need that little bit of motivation to get out there. So the other thing to note, and super important, is when you're outside, you are responsible for yourself, meaning you can't put the responsibility of your safety in someone else's hands. And that's why we really want you to start getting used to looking up the trails that you're going to go on. So let's say I'm joining 52 Hike Challenge for Top of the World Hike. Look up the hike. If we didn't provide you with a map, look up the hike on your own, print your own map, get familiar with it, so that way, if anything happens, you are, you have that backup. You know how to get back. You have your map, all of that good stuff.
All right, so let's talk about continuing on some of these tips. So again, take a class or learn how to read a map and compass. It's important because it's very possible that, maybe you're either way ahead of the group and you maybe take the wrong turn, or maybe you're behind the group and again, or maybe you're just by yourself and you're not really sure which way to go. So this is where it's going to be important to kind of like familiarize yourself with the map. Anyway, so when you do have this map, some of them that you buy will be waterproof. And if you print something off, or if you just have another map that someone else gave you, put it inside of a plastic bag to waterproof it. That helps you a lot. So consider investing in a personal GPS unit, like a Suunto or a Garmin. I have this watch. It leaves a breadcrumb trail, so that way I know exactly how to go back in case I'm ever lost. And that way I really don't have to worry so much. But it is nice to have that. And of course, again, still have the map with you. It's good, just in case your electronics dies. So the day before your hike, familiarize yourself with the trail. Let someone know where you're going, okay? And of course, check the weather. Make sure that you're going out when the weather is favorable. It's not a good idea to go out when it's raining or snowing, or something that's really harsh. I should say that because there might be times where it might be something light, but again, go out very short for that trip and then come back, because we definitely don't want you to be out in a snowstorm. All right, so let's talk about using one of our the apps that we recommend, which is AllTrails. If you haven't downloaded it yet, there are a ton of different trails on there, and so you can go ahead and take a look, and it'll ask you for your location. And there's a free version, again, where you can do all your planning from the comforts of your home. But there's a paid version for downloading those maps when you don't have cell phone signal. Now, this is important, again, because you might be out there and you think the area has cell phone reception, and then next thing you know, it doesn't. And so I just wanted to let you know about the pro version, and be sure to download that map before you leave cell phone reception, because do it from the comforts of your home. You can record your tracks as well on there, and there's another feature on there called Lifeline. And
Lifeline is a bit like we had another app we recommended called Karen. And what it is it can alert your safety circle if you're running behind or if there's an issue. I also want to let you know that we are going to answer your questions at the end of the chat. So please, as you have any questions, I do see some coming through. But yeah, I mean, we have a video on our YouTube. Now, the addition is an older version of the app, but there's still some similar like modules in there that relate to the app. And I would highly recommend just check it out. But one of the big things that we recommend is get familiar with the app. So don't wait until the day of your hike, because sometimes that happens. Like if we wait until the last minute to plan our hikes, it's a lot more easier for us to get discouraged if we're not finding something. So everything we're teaching you now, like you want to plan ahead. If you're trying to go hike this weekend on Saturday or Sunday, you should have been planning your hike on Tuesday, or even today is still fine, but you don't want to wait until the last minute. You don't want to start trying to figure out how to use AllTrails when you're on the trail and maybe you don't have reception, as Philip was saying. So really, really take time to study how to use this map service and get familiar so you know where all the buttons and all the different options are for the app.
All right. So researching and reserving permits. Okay, there's a site called recreation.gov. We're going to walk you through it, actually. And you can find lots of different places on there as well. Many places that require permits, and they offer them 6 months in advance. Carla's going to be talking about that, and we're going to kind of walk you through actually a live demonstration. And you can go on at, say, for example, 7 a.m. to book on recreation.gov. So Carla, why don't you tell us about that?
Okay, so first I'm going to show you just some images, and then I'm actually going to do a live session about of how to navigate through. Okay, so this is, once you're on their website, there's different things you can do on recreation.gov. Now, I do want to say this. When you're planning your hikes, if you need a permit, you will need to find out where you get that permit from. Usually the land manager will tell you where you have to grab the permit from. So because I am sticking to this Big Pine Lakes, okay, we're going to kind of do a pseudo, we're booking this trip. Okay, so once you're on the website, you can use recreation.gov to reserve your camping now. And also it's pretty much all gone to reserving online with COVID, especially. Some places require you, for example, if you're going to a national monument and you want to go do a tour, you can book it through here. Also, you're going to get your permits here. Okay, so we're going to stay focused on this in particular. So I'm not sure if you can see my mouse. I'm not sure if you can, but any case, you'll see the little permit section here. You'll click on that. And then in this situation, it kind of knows that I'm in Southern California. So I wanted to show you an example of an easy situation. I want to go do this Cedar Creek Falls. Okay, this is a hike that it requires a day permit, and you click on that specific link. Okay, and then it takes you to this next screen. You put in your date, and it shows you. So you see, if you look at Thursday, the 16th, it says A. That means there are permits available. Now, this one isn't telling me how many permits, but when you go to the next page, you'll put in how many tickets or permits you want, and then it'll allow you to either book or not book. Okay. In this situation, I went through and I entered in that I wanted to go to Big Pine Lakes. Now, it does require you to know what area you're going to be in. This happens to be in Inyo National Forest. So once I went in, it asks questions. Again, we're going to do an actual live demonstration shortly. And it tells me, hey, Big Pine Creek North Fork, which is where I want to go, has availability on Wednesday, June 15th. It has 5 permits available. Before we get through that, I want to show you some other things before we get into the live. So once you're on that page, there is a way for you to see when you need to make reservations by. There's actually a downloadable document. So this is for overnight permits, by the way. So day permits, I didn't need one for the day, but I do need one if I'm trying to overnight. So right now, today is the 16th of December, 6 months out. And if you look again, I don't think you can see my mouse, but it does say in this little Excel sheet that 6 months prior, they have 15 permits available. So you can reserve up to 15 permits online. So they are reserving that for June 16th today. Okay, so 6 months out, that's how many permits are available. Now, 2 weeks prior, which is June 2nd, 2022, if I want to go on June 16th, they're going to also release another 10 permits. So on that day at 7 a.m., you need to be on their website, and then you're going to basically put in the same information and see what populates. Sometimes if you want to go somewhere really popular, they sell out really quickly. So you're going to want to be there at 7 a.m. and, and if they're not available, have backup locations that you want to go hike at or backpack at. And then also we did speak to them recently, and they actually told us that on the day of, sometimes if there's unclaimed permits, they do release them at 12 o'clock the same day. That is obviously if you're in town, you're local, and you can go and you have to pick up the phone actually and call them, and then they'll be able to help you. But as you can see, this is why it's important to research, because you don't want to say 3 months prior to your date, hey, I want to go do this hike, and then you realize there's a permit involved and you needed to reserve that like 3 months prior. So this is why you need to do your due diligence. This is more correlating to our more advanced hikers who want to do overnights and backpacking, which we hope that by the time you've taken 52 hikes or somewhere along the journey, you start doing this. I absolutely love backpacking. It's one of my favorite things. So I know that this is one of the things that most people find difficult. What I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to share my other screen with you so that you can actually see a live of this actual how this all works. So just give me 1 second here.
You can go to the screen.
1 second. All right, so I think you guys can see my screen. Let me just make sure here. Share my screen. Perfect. All right. Well, it's not. There we go. That should do it. Okay, let's go to recreation.gov. Okay, we're here on the homepage. So again, we're going to stay focused on Big Pine Lakes right now. So we're going to go to our permits. And here, you need to know where exactly, who manages the area where that trailhead is, okay? So I did my research. I know it's in Inyo County, and I also know the trailhead that I want to start out of is Big Pine North Fork. So as I scroll down, you can do one of two things. You can search up here at the search bar, or you could go directly here as I'm searching and click on that specific forest area. Okay, so this is the area my trailhead is at. And you're going to click on explore available permits. All right, so this is the part that I was telling you, you're going to have to put in details. Okay, so this one, I want an overnight, and I want to go, let's do 6 months out. All right, we're going to go June 16th, and there's going to be 2 people in my group. And then it asks, is this a commercial guided trip? I'm going to say no, it's private. So just know that if you don't click on that, you're not going to see this availability calendar. Now, as you could see, this is not available. It says W. And that means that there are going to be more tickets coming up 2 weeks before. So I need to mark my calendar and come back. If that was the date I'm set on, try to get tickets or permits that morning. However, let's say my availability is flexible. You can actually look back and see when there's availability. So let's look back 5 days. There we go. I see 2 permits on June 7th for 2 people. And let's say that I want to take that, or Monday looks better, right? There's 5 permits available. I can book these right now. So I would click on that. Let's just say, for example, and I know this is where I want to go out of. And then I click here and I say book now. You're going to have to log in. Okay, so that's just a quick little overview, just so you know how to use this website. We're actually going to go back to our presentation. But again, with this specific location, I just want to show you guys, when you click on the actual link, there is going to be different information here that talks about like where to get information from the US Forest Service page. It's going to have some good to know information. There was one more thing I wanted to show you on the main page. Here, they have their link for their quotas. Here we go. Just scroll down on the main page, and that's going to give you the detailed information as to when you need to book this. I do know really popular trails, like for example, the Angel Trail in no, it's actually Angel Trail in Grand Canyon. That's the trail that goes down into the canyon. You have to like book way in advance, for example. So you're going to want to go look this up if you wanted to do that as an example. So let me go ahead and get back to our presentation here. And we can keep on going there. Okay, so I just wanted to briefly show you how that works. But now I'm going to pass it on to Philip, because we're going to talk a little bit more about research.
Okay, so you know, in case you weren't sure, there's also on AllTrails, you know, some ways that you can do some research on this as well. So AllTrails, they generally have some pretty good information on there. And again, this is what it looks like if you haven't used the app before.
Well, this one is the computer edition, by the way.
Yeah, the computer. And so here, this is, of course, we talked about the mileage that you want to be concerned with. And notice that it's 15.2 miles, heavily trafficked, out and back. And that's 15 miles all the way around, not 15 miles one way, just so you know that. And there you can see the elevation gain as well.
Also, really quickly, since we only did a small screenshot, there is a section when you went down, they actually had the information that said, if you want to overnight here, you'll need a permit. So, but again, there are many ways to do that research. Make sure you look up at least 3 different sources just to verify that you know what you need to know before you head out on that trail.
All right, so as Carla mentioned, knowing who is the one that manages that trail is important. So you can go into Google and you can type in who manages Big Pine Lakes Trail, and it'll say operated by Forest Service. And so now you know, okay, and it actually shows you the link right there in your national forest. All right, so then you can go to in this case, we're still talking about Big Pine Lakes, the Forest Service or land manager, and you can kind of see a little bit more information over here as well. You'll see even down below in the reservations area, it says reserve up to 6 months in advance at recreation.gov. Day use does not require a permit. That'd be a very hard day hike, by the way, just so you know. And you would want to definitely go in the season that it says, because it can get very, very cold and snowing, and that's a whole nother chapter. All right. So we also recommend that you check out the different reviews and see what people are saying. People are going to usually give you some good tips in there, telling you, what time you should maybe start, maybe what time, you can kind of see what date they went. Here, this person said a few patches of ice. Okay. And so still requiring, of course, I would still bring micro spikes. I wouldn't go at that time without spikes. So anyway, yeah, you can definitely check it out and do a little more research that way through the reviews.
All right. So one of the things that I think is super awesome, once you've planned your hike, you've got it on the books, get yourself the actual printed paper map. This map is one of those maps Philip was just talking about. It's actually like a pre-laminated map. I'm still going to put this into a Ziploc bag to make sure it's extra safe. But this map is awesome. It's the Tom Harrison map. So once you pick your trail, you can go grab one of these maps and get familiar with them. There's some really great little just kind of getting used to how to read a map. There's some videos on rei.com that we can put in the chat later. Just check out. They're like 2 or 3 minutes. It talks about like topo lines, and these maps are just really, really great to have handy, and just to learn how to tell the different, how you could see like all the different lakes. And if you're interested in peaks, for example, you can learn more about that and how to tell what the contour lines are. There's so much more to learn. But since we're staying focused on this specific trip, having one of these maps is super important, and just wanted to give it a shout out. So once you have planned your trip, it's time to have fun. Pack your stuff, your food. There's so much more. We've talked a lot this year about what you need to get started. Backpacking is its own course in itself. But once you've planned your hike, just go out and have fun. Once you've taken the steps, just enjoy nature. And I'm sure that we can all relate to how much nature brings into our lives. And I just absolutely love sharing this information with you guys. I hope it was helpful, at least a starting point. The best way to learn more is to start doing it yourself, to start, just get out there, plan a small little hike, and learn from that. And we hope that this has been helpful for you guys. We're going to be answering questions now.
We're going to talk about this new thing that we have going on.
Yes. Yes.
So, we wanted to really put together something that was more of a course as well. And then we also are going to bring on a life coach to help out for those people. We want to break down those limiting beliefs, and we want to use the outdoors as a way to actually push our own limits, mental limits. And so, we put together this coaching program. And so we just actually launched it kind of today. So we just put it up on our website. So check it out. We actually have the course listed on our page. You'll see a banner as you go to 52hikechallenge.com, and you can click on that banner on the top, and then it'll take you to the course.
Yeah, working directly with us,
Mhm.
and it will all be live. So
It will be more than just the Facebook. It'll be actual Zoom, so you can talk more. And so I know that here we're actually just reading some of the comments, but anyway, we wanted to let you know about that. And then, of course, new for 2022, we also have our newest medal that we just got in. And so, for those of you who are going to be finishing in the year 2022,
join us or share it with your family and friends. We are able to do this work thanks to all of you who support us and our sponsors. We absolutely just thank you for being here, and thank you for supporting our mission and our movement. So let's answer some questions.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right.
All right. Katie says, just a comment, I'll say. Katie says she's 65 years young, walk and hike 3 times a day. Love it. That's awesome. All right.
Amazing. Okay, so I like giving out shout outs. So Philip, thanks for giving some tips. He said Avenza Maps is a great app for getting maps and tracking your hike. It's not so much for finding established hikes though. So he says he uses AllTrails and Avenza Maps. Thank you, Philip. And Jan, okay, so this is definitely relevant to Southern California. For example, San Bernardino Mountain requires a day hike permit, and that is correct. You can actually get permits when you get to the ranger station. However, sometimes the permits are out. So you definitely want to do your due diligence before you get out there. That's why we talked about making sure to plan. Let's see what else we've got.
All right, we have a shout out for Gaia. And so Gaia is also another app that you can use. I would say that that's pretty good for, off trail stuff as well. So definitely check that out if you're doing anything off trail. We're not covering anything off trail. We're just talking about stuff on trail, and actually, of course, permits for those popular trails. But Gaia is also one that you can check out as well.
So quick shout out to Leah. She's at hike 42. Way to go, Leah. But a true question, where to find a class and how to read a map compass. I definitely need that. Yes, absolutely. We've taken the classes before. REI does host these classes. We also have done the Sierra Club's Wilderness Course program, which really heavily focused on navigation. So we learned about, how to read the contour lines, and just there's so much to learn. Why we don't teach that is because it's actually quite in depth. You need an actual compass, and then you need the practice, the actual on trail and out in the field practice. So we definitely recommend going to rei.com, checking out their local map and compass classes. And start with that and practice. That's the only way to learn. But I know for me, having an actual map and knowing how to read an actual map, looking at it, knowing what the contour lines mean is really beneficial. And that is something you can just get started. Like I said, we have these videos. We'll add those links to the video. So come back at the end of the talk. Maybe tomorrow we should have those links up. Philip had some great links to help us get started with some of that.
All right. So Philip Yoho also mentioned Knowles offers classes, and he believes that they're one-day beginner classes, about $75. It's available through REI. You can purchase it through REI. I would definitely recommend looking up some different classes at REI as well. And there's lots of classes there's some classes that are free and some classes that you pay for. All right. Let's see. We have a
Nancy
question.
Nancy says, in cold weather, her phone battery has been crappy. Any suggestions for phone battery pack or backup? Well, I love mine. It's the Anchor It's kind
Yeah.
of small. I actually took that on the John Muir Trail. Um, I don't like talk about that all the time, but it actually lasted like 3 or 4 days. So I really loved the pack, and keeping it warm
Yeah,
is one of the best
keeping it
ways.
warm. It could be keep your phone warm as well. Keep it on the inside chest pocket, and so of your jacket, that will help you a lot. But yeah, batteries tend to crap out when they get cold, and so I just want everyone to be aware of that as well.
Yeah, Nancy, and that's why we also always recommend that you learn how to use a map and compass, because if something did happen, at least you have some backup. So other things like we talked about earlier, having that like some sort of a GPS unit, whether it was a watch or a physical unit, might be another way. And also, don't forget, like one of the things I do when I get on the trail is I will shut my battery down to battery reserve mode, and then I will also lower down the screen the brightness, so it helps save my phone even longer. So little tips like that is
Yeah.
really great.
And once you download that map, again, if you're on AllTrails and you download that map and you don't need to be on available via the cell phone, put it on airplane mode. That's also going to save your battery a lot.
Tara said that she uses a hot hand warm. I'm guessing she meant a hand warmer next to her phone to help keep it warm. Yeah, that's an option.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Philip also uses an anchor, and he says, yes, keep the phone warm. I mean, I'm telling you, I have this little one and it was great. I mean, I couldn't believe it lasted like 4 whole days. And, again, just little tips like that are really helpful when you're out on the trails.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Katie said she just hiked an easy hike. Nice. Way to go, Katie. So yeah, I mean, we're basically almost at the end here of our chat. We hope that it was really helpful for you guys. Again, we all had to get started somewhere. We all at one point, I really had to depend on Philip here to take me hiking. And who knew that from literally just taking a little hike, one day I would plan a whole JMT trek, John Muir Trail. For those of you that don't know what it is, it's basically a through hike, and I didn't use anyone else's tracks. I made my own, just with these skills, just with knowing how to read a map. Thankfully, my partner had a really great map. Yeah. It was a National Geographic map, and every day I was like, okay, how many miles are we going to do? And using a map, I was able to like say, okay, this is our starting point. If we're going to do 10 miles today, here's where we're going to end. And it really having these basic skills got me to that point, but it was only through getting started and then learning to be responsible for myself that I was able to accomplish such a crazy, audacious goal. Mm-hmm. And while I can be honest and say I don't want to be a through hiker, I love backpacking. I love overnights. 2 nights is my sweet spot, and you need permits for that. And it was intimidating for me. And I remember that I used to wait for people and jump on their trips because it was intimidating. But eventually I realized I can do this too. So we hope that you guys sign up for the 2022 challenge and keep getting out there, having more adventures, tagging us. And we really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being with us this year.
Thank you for your trust.
Thank you for your trust.
All right.
We'll see you guys on the trails in 2022.
All right. Thank you all. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.